Captain Hannah Kim stood on the bridge of the human colony ship New Sol and watched the enemy ships surround them. The alien vessels were huge and dark against the stars. Each one was bigger than 3 human ships put together. There were hundreds of them forming a perfect circle around her ship. The bridge was quiet, except for the soft hum of computers. Her crew worked at their stations, but she could feel their fear. Everyone knew they were trapped. There was nowhere to run and no way to fight back against so many enemy ships. Hannah looked at the main screen where the biggest alien ship floated in front of them. It was massive beyond belief. The thing was twice the size of Earth's moon and covered in weapons that could destroy planets. Strange lights moved across its dark surface like the eyes of some giant monster. "Captain," said Lieutenant Commander Jinwoo Park from his position at the tactical station. "They're powering up their weapons. All of them." Hannah nodded, but kept her face calm. She had been a ship captain for 15 years and had seen many dangerous situations, but nothing like this. Her ship carried 50,000 people, families with children, scientists and engineers, farmers and teachers. All of them were counting on her to keep them safe. "Any word from the distress signal?" she asked. Communications Officer Subin Choi shook her head. "The nearest human fleet is 3 weeks away at best." These aliens appeared out of nowhere. Our sensors never detected them until they were already surrounding us. The main screen flickered and changed. Now it showed the face of an alien creature that made several crew members gasp. The thing had 4 eyes arranged in a square pattern on its face. Its skin was gray and covered in scales. When it opened its mouth, Hannah could see rows of sharp teeth. "I am Admiral Vextar of the Vorthok Empire," the alien said in perfect human language. Its voice was deep and cold. "You will listen to my words and obey." Hannah stepped forward. "This is Captain Hannah Kim of the colony ship New Sol. We are peaceful travelers. We mean you no harm." The alien's 4 eyes focused on her, and it made a sound that might have been laughter. "Harm? You think I care about harm? Your entire species is nothing but insects to us. We have crushed 17 different races under our boots. We have turned 4 civilizations into ash and dust." "What do you want?" Hannah asked. "I want you to choose how you die," Admiral Vextar said. "You have 2 options. First, you can surrender your ship to us right now. We will execute you and your crew quickly. It will be over in minutes." The alien paused, and its eyes seemed to glow brighter. "Or you can refuse to surrender. In that case, we will destroy every human settlement within 100 light years. Every colony, every space station, every ship. Millions of your people will die slowly and in great pain." Hannah felt her heart beating fast, but kept her voice steady. "And if we surrender, then only you die. 50,000 people here. The rest of your species lives a little longer, till we decide to visit them too." The bridge was completely silent now. Even the computer sounds seemed quieter. Hannah could see her crew looking at her with desperate hope. They wanted her to find a way out of this. They wanted her to save them all. "How long do I have to decide?" she asked. 1 hour, Admiral Vextar said. "When that time is over, you will contact me with your choice. Choose surrender and die quickly. Choose to fight and watch your entire species burn." The screen went dark. The alien was gone, but his words hung in the air like poison. Chief Engineer Minho Lee spoke first. "Captain, our weapons are no match for even one of their ships. We have mining lasers and basic shields. They have military-grade everything." "About running?" asked Dr. Yuna Shin from the science station. "Can we jump to hyperspace?" Jinwoo Park shook his head. "They've got us in some kind of field. Our engines won't start. We're completely trapped." Hannah looked around at her crew. These were good people, smart people who had signed up to help build a new world on a distant planet. They'd never expected to face an alien army that wanted to wipe out humanity. "Keep trying to break free," she told them, "and keep working on that distress signal. Maybe we can boost its power." She walked to her captain's chair and sat down. The weight of 50,000 lives pressed down on her shoulders. Outside the windows, the alien ships waited like hungry wolves. Hannah closed her eyes and tried to think. There had to be something. Some way to fight back or escape. But what could one colony ship do against an entire alien fleet? Then her personal communication device made a soft beep. She looked down at it in surprise. The device was showing an incoming message on a channel she had not used in 20 years. A channel that was supposed to be dead. She opened the message and read the words that appeared on her screen. "Still got that old emergency beacon I gave you, kiddo?" Hannah's hands began to shake. She recognized the writing style. She knew that voice even though she had not heard it in 2 decades. But it was impossible. The person who sent this message was dead. She stood up quickly and walked toward her private quarters. "Jin, Wu, you have the bridge. Keep monitoring the aliens, but don't provoke them." In her quarters, Hannah went to a small safe hidden behind a wall panel. Inside were her most precious possessions: photos of her family, her father's military medals, and a small device that looked like nothing special. Her father had given it to her on her graduation day from the Space Academy. "If you're ever in real trouble," he had said, "the kind where civilization itself is at stake, you activate this. Act! But only then. Promise me." She had promised. And she had carried the device with her for 20 years without ever using it. Father had died on a secret mission shortly after giving it to her. At least that's what she had been told. Now, looking at the small device in her hands, Hannah wondered if everything she thought she knew was wrong. The message had come from her father's private channel. But how could that be? Outside her quarters, she could hear the normal sounds of the ship. People talking, machines working, children playing in the family sections. All of it would be gone. In less than an hour, unless she found a miracle. Hannah looked at the beacon one more time. Her father's words echoed in her memory. Only when civilization itself is at stake. She pressed the activation button. The device began to glow with a soft blue light. Then it started making a high-pitched sound that seemed to cut through the air itself. The sound grew louder and stranger until it no longer sounded like anything human technology could make. Whatever was about to happen, Hannah knew there was no going back now. She had made her choice. She would find out if her father's final gift could save them all. Captain Hannah Kim held the glowing beacon in her hands and watched as it sent out waves of energy she had never seen before. The device was warm to the touch and hummed with power that seemed to come from somewhere beyond normal space. She returned to the bridge where her crew was still working desperately to find a way out of their trap. The alien ships remained in perfect formation around them, like a cage of death and steel. "Captain," said Chief Engineer Minho Lee, looking up from his instruments with confusion, "I'm reading some very strange energy patterns coming from your location. What is that device?" Hannah looked at the beacon still glowing in her hands. "Something my father gave me a long time ago. He said to use it only if civilization itself was in danger." "Well, it's definitely doing something," Minho said. Checking his readings again, the energy signature is unlike anything in our databases. It's not using any known human technology. In fact, it's not using any technology I recognize at all. The beacon continued to pulse with blue light. Each pulse seemed to send a signal out into space, but not through normal communication channels. Whatever this device was doing, it was reaching across distances that should have been impossible. Dr. Yunishin looked up from her science station. "Captain, the signal is traveling through what appears to be folded space. It's taking shortcuts through dimensions we didn't even know existed." "Where is it going?" Hannah asked. "I have no idea," Yuna replied. "But it's broadcasting coordinates. In some kind of priority code? The code is written in a format that predates our current galactic calendar system. This technology is ancient." On the main screen, Admiral Vexstar appeared again. His 4 eyes glowed with impatience and anger. "Human, Captain, you have 30 minutes remaining to make your choice." "I grow tired of waiting." Hannah looked directly at the alien commander. "We're still discussing our options." "There are no options, Admiral," Vexstar snarled. "Render and die quickly, or refuse and watch your entire species burn. Those are your only choices." The screen went dark again. Around the bridge, her crew members looked at each other with fear and desperation. They all knew that no help was coming. The nearest human fleet was weeks away, and they would all be dead in less than 30 minutes. "Captain," said communications. "Officer Subin Choi, I'm detecting some unusual activity in the space around us. The quantum fields are fluctuating in ways that shouldn't be possible." Hannah looked at her instruments. The readings were indeed strange. Space itself seemed to be responding to the beacon's signal. Reality was bending and twisting in small ways that made her sensors give conflicting reports. "It's like the universe is preparing for something," Yuna said, studying the data, "but I don't know what." Lieutenant Commander Jinwoo Park turned from his tactical station. "Captain, the alien fleet is beginning to charge their main weapons. They're getting ready to fire." Through the windows, Hannah could see the enemy ships, glowing brighter as they prepared to unleash destruction. Each vessel had enough firepower to crack a planet in half. Together, they could turn the new Sol into atoms in seconds. The beacon in her hands pulsed more rapidly now. The blue light was getting brighter, and the humming sound was growing stronger. Whatever message it was sending had reached its destination. "All ships report ready to fire," Admiral Vextar announced over the communication channel. "Human captain, your time is up. Make your choice now." Hannah stood up and walked to the center of the bridge. Her crew looked at her with hope and fear. Mixed together, she was their captain and their leader. Whatever happened next would be because of her decision. She opened a channel to the alien fleet. Admiral Vextar's ugly face appeared on screen, his 4 eyes gleaming with anticipation of violence. "Have you made your choice?" Yes, Hannah said calmly. "I choose to introduce you to someone." The alien commander laughed, a harsh sound that made several crew members flinch. "Introduce me? To who? Are you going to beg one of your crew members to speak for you?"
"No," Hannah said.
She looked directly into the camera and spoke with quiet confidence. "I'd like you to meet my old man."
"Admiral."
Vextar's laughter grew louder. "Your old man? Your father? Is this some pathetic human tradition? Do you think I care about your family?" "You shed," Hannah replied. The alien commander was still laughing when his ship's alarm systems began to sound. On the bridge of the new Sol, Dr. Yuna Shin was staring at her instruments in shock. "Captain," she said in a whisper, "something is happening to space itself." The stars outside the windows began to flicker and bend. Reality was twisting in ways that made it hard to look at directly. The quantum fields that Yuna had been monitoring were now fluctuating wildly. "What is this?" Admiral Vextar demanded, his laughter stopping abruptly. "Dimensional readings are off the charts," Yuna reported. "It's like something is tearing holes in the fabric of space-time itself." On the alien flagship, emergency lights began flashing. The Vorthok crew was shouting in their harsh language as their sensors detected massive energy signatures appearing from nowhere. "Report," Admiral Vextar roared at his subordinates. "Sir, we're detecting spatial anomalies throughout the system," one of the aliens replied. "Multiple dimensional rifts are opening. We don't understand how this is possible." The beacon in Hannah's hand suddenly went quiet. The blue light faded and the humming stopped. Whatever it had been designed to do was now complete. "Captain," said Jinwoo Park, his voice filled with awe, "something is coming through those rifts." On the main screen, they could see space itself beginning to tear open like cloth. The tiers were perfectly black against the stars, and from within them came a light that seemed to belong to another universe entirely. Admiral Vextar's confidence was starting to crack. "What have you done, human?" "I called for help," Hannah said simply. "Help from who?" "Your pathetic human fleet is weeks away. There is no one in this sector who can challenge the might of the Vorthok Empire." As if in response to his words, the largest dimensional rift suddenly expanded. From within it emerged the front of a ship, unlike anything anyone had ever seen. The vessel seemed to be made of materials that bent light around them, creating an effect that hurt to look at directly. More of the ship emerged from the rift. It was not as large as the Vorthok flagship, but there was something about it that made the alien vessels look primitive and clumsy by comparison. Admiral Vextar transmitted, "Identify yourself immediately." The response came on all frequencies at once, broadcasting in perfect Vorthok language with an accent that spoke of absolute authority. "This is Admiral Chung Ho Kim of the Dimensional Defense Corps. You have threatened my daughter. You have 30 seconds to withdraw from this system before I demonstrate why that was a mistake." On the bridge of the New Sol, Captain Hannah Kim felt tears running down her face. The voice belonged to her father, a man who had been dead for 20 years. Somehow, impossibly, he had come to save them all. Space continued to tear open around the Vorthok fleet as more dimensional rifts appeared like wounds in reality itself. From each opening came a light that seemed to belong to another universe. The alien ships that had moments before seemed so powerful and threatening now looked small and helpless. Admiral Vextar stared at his sensor readings in disbelief. His 4 eyes darted between different displays as his crew shouted reports in their harsh language. Nothing in their databases could explain what was happening. "Sir, the dimensional readings are beyond anything we've ever encountered," reported one of his officers. "These rifts are stable and controlled. Someone is creating them deliberately." The mysterious ship continued to emerge from the largest rift. As more of it became visible, the crew of the New Sol could see that it was unlike any vessel they had ever imagined. The hull seemed to be made of a material that bent light and gravity around it, creating an unsettling visual effect that made their eyes water. "Capta," said Dr. Yunishin, studying her instruments with amazement. "That ship is partially existing in normal space and partially in another dimension. It's like it's only half real." The ship completed its emergence from the rift and took position directly between the New Sol and the Vorthok flagship. Despite being much smaller than the alien vessel, somehow seemed to dominate the space around it. Admiral Vextar tried to regain his composure. "Unknown vessel, you are interfering with official Vorthok Empire business. Withdraw immediately or face destruction." The response came immediately in perfect Vorthok language, but with an accent that spoke of absolute authority and confidence. "This is Admiral Chang-Ho Kim of the Dimensional Defense Corps. You have threatened my daughter and her crew. You have 30 seconds to withdraw from this system." On the bridge of the New Sol, Captain Hannah Kim felt her legs go weak. She gripped the back of her chair for support. The voice was definitely her father's, but it was impossible. Admiral Chang-Ho Kim had died 20 years ago on a classified mission beyond the Galactic Rim. "Dad," she whispered, opening a private communication channel. "Hello, sweetheart," came the familiar voice. "I'm sorry I've been away for so long. I've been very busy." Security Chief Kung Su Nam turned from his station with shock written across his face. "Captain, that's impossible. I served under your father before he died. I saw the mission reports." "The reports you saw were necessary lies," Admiral Chang-Ho Kim's voice said over the open channel. "My mission was classified at the highest levels. I've been working in the spaces between dimensions for 20 years. Admiral Vextar's patience finally snapped. "I don't care who you are, human. You face the might of the Vorthok Empire. We have conquered 17 species and destroyed for entire civilizations. One small ship cannot stand against our fleet." "Your fleet," Admiral Chang-Ho Kim replied calmly, "is about to discover how wrong you are." The mysterious ship began to glow with the same blue light that had come from Hannah's beacon. As it did, scanners throughout the Vorthok fleet began to register impossible readings. "Sir," reported a Vorthok officer, "the human ship is scanning us. But it's not using any scanning technology we recognize. It's penetrating our shields like they don't exist." Admiral Vextar looked at his displays in growing alarm. The scan was incredibly detailed, more thorough than anything in Vorthok technology. Within minutes, the human ship seemed to have complete information about every weapon system, every shield generator, and every piece of equipment on every ship in the fleet. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Because we've been watching you." "For decades," Admiral Chung-Ho Kim replied. "We know everything about your empire. Every ship design, every weapon type, every tactical formation you use." Chief Engineer Min-Ho Lee on the New Sol was studying the energy readings from his father-in-law's ship. "Captain, that vessel is using power sources I don't recognize. The energy output is stable, but massive. It's like they found a way to tap into the fundamental forces of the universe itself." The Vorthok fleet began to move into attack formation. Hundreds of ships repositioned themselves to bring their weapons to bear on the single human vessel. Their combined firepower could Destroy entire star systems. Fire all weapons, Admiral Vexstar ordered. His fleet opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams, plasma missiles, and antimatter torpedoes streaked toward the mysterious ship. Oh, it was enough destructive power to vaporize a moon. The weapons struck the human ship and simply vanished. They didn't bounce off shields or get absorbed by armor. They just stopped existing the moment they touched the hull. What happened? Admiral Vexstar screamed at his crew. "Sir, our weapons are being phased out of this dimension when they near the target," reported a terrified officer. "They're being shifted into parallel space where they can't cause damage." Admiral Chang Ho Kim's voice came over the communications system again, still perfectly calm. "Your weapons are crude and predictable. We've developed defenses against every form of attack used by aggressive species." The Vorthok fleet tried to move into new positions but discovered that their ships were somehow locked in place. Their engines produced thrust, but no movement resulted. It was as if they were stuck in invisible quicksand. "Sir, we cannot move," reported the navigation officer. "Some kind of field is holding us in place." "That's a dimensional anchor, Admiral," Chang Ho Kim explained. "Your ships are partially locked into a parallel space. You can't move until I decide to let you." Admiral Vexstar was beginning to understand that he faced an enemy unlike any he had encountered before. "What do you want?" "I want you to listen very carefully," Admiral Chang Ho Kim replied. "The past 20 years I've been working with an organization called the Dimensional Defense Corps. We exist to protect developing civilizations from predatory empires like yours." On the bridge of the New Sol, Captain Hannah Kim opened a private channel to her father's ship. "Dad," I thought. "You were dead. We had a funeral. I cried for months." "I'm sorry, sweetheart," her father's voice came back gently. "The mission required complete secrecy. Even my own family had to believe I was gone. But I've been watching over you. I've been watching over all of humanity. How is any of this possible?" she asked. 25 years ago, human explorers found ancient ruins at the edge of the galaxy. The technology we discovered there changed everything. It gave us the ability to travel between dimensions, to exist partially outside normal space-time. Dr. Yunishin looked up from her instruments. "Captain, I'm detecting more dimensional rifts opening throughout the system. Something else is coming through." The space around the Vorthok fleet began to ripple and tear again. From the new rifts emerged more ships, each one using the same impossible technology as Admiral Chang Ho Kim's vessel. Within minutes, dozens of the mysterious ships surrounded the alien fleet. "This is impossible," Admiral Vexstar muttered. "Humans don't have this kind of technology." "Humans didn't," Admiral Chang Ho Kim corrected. "But we learned, we adapted, we grew beyond what we once were. And now we're here to make sure that aggressive empires like yours never again threaten innocent people." The Vorthok commander looked around at his trapped fleet. His ships were powerless, his weapons useless, and his enemies seemed able to control the very nature of reality itself. "Now," Admiral Chang Ho Kim replied, "you're going to learn what happens when you threaten my daughter and her people. You're going to discover that humanity is not the weak species you thought we were." The mysterious ships began to glow brighter, preparing for whatever came next. Admiral Chang Ho Kim's ship moved closer to the New Sol as more dimensional vessels emerged from the rifts in space. The mysterious fleet now numbered in the hundreds, each ship glowing with the same otherworldly energy that seemed to bend reality. Around them, Hannah Admiral Chang Ho Kim said over the private channel, "I need to bring you aboard my ship. There are things you need to see and understand." Captain Hannah Kim looked around at her crew on the bridge. They were all staring at the impossible scene outside their windows. The mighty Vorthok fleet that had threatened to destroy them was now completely helpless, held in place by technology that seemed like magic. "What about my people?" she asked. "They're safe," her father replied. "The Vorthok cannot harm them now. But you need to know the truth about what's been happening in this galaxy for the past 25 years. A beam of soft blue light surrounded Hannah. She felt herself becoming lighter, as if gravity was loosening its hold on her. The sensation was strange but not frightening. Within moments, She found herself standing in what appeared to be the bridge of her father's ship. The interior was unlike anything she had ever seen. The walls seemed to be made of flowing energy rather than solid matter. Displays showed information in languages she didn't recognize, and crew members worked at stations that appeared to be partially embedded in other dimensions. "Welcome to the Dimensional Defense Corps flagship," Admiral Chang Ho Kim said, stepping forward to embrace his daughter. He looked older than she remembered, with gray hair and lines around his eyes, but he was definitely her father. He wore a uniform that seemed to shift and change colors as he moved, made from materials that existed in multiple dimensions at once. "Dad, I have so many questions," Hannah said, tears in her eyes. "I know, sweetheart. Let me show you something." First, he led her to a large display that showed images of star systems throughout the galaxy. As they watched, the display zoomed in on different planets, showing civilizations that Hannah had never heard of before. 25 years ago, Admiral Chang Ho Kim began. Human explorers found ancient ruins on a dead planet at the edge of known space. The ruins contained technology from a civilization that had existed millions of years ago. This technology allowed them to travel between dimensions and exist partially outside normal space-time. The display showed images of the ruins. Strange buildings that seemed to twist through space in impossible ways. Devices that glowed with the same blue light as the beacon Hannah had activated. The civilization that built these ruins faced the same problem we face now, her father continued. Aggressive empires that conquered and destroyed peaceful species. They developed this technology to protect the innocent and stop the destroyers. "What happened to them?" Hannah asked. "It transcended physical existence entirely. They became beings of pure energy and thought. But before they left, they created a test. They hid their technology where only species worthy of it could find. It's species that would use it to protect others rather than to conquer." Engineer Sihan Park, a man Hannah had never seen before, approached them. He was tall and thin with intelligent eyes and wore the same shifting uniform as her father. "Captain Kim," he said with a bow, "your father has told us much about you. We've been watching your career with great interest. Sahan here is one of our lead engineers," Admiral Chang Ho Kim explained. "He's been working with the ancient technology for 15 years. Show her what we've learned." Sihan led them to another display that showed detailed technical information about the Vorthok fleet. Every ship was mapped down to the smallest component. Every weapon system was analyzed and cataloged. "We've been observing the Vorthok Empire for decades," Sehan explained. "We know everything about their technology, their tactics, their weaknesses. We've been preparing for this confrontation for 20 years. "But why didn't you intervene sooner?" Hannah asked. "They've destroyed entire civilizations." Her father's expression grew sad. "Because we had to be sure. The ancient technology comes with great responsibility. Couldn't act until we were certain that the Vorthok would never change their ways. We had to document their crimes thoroughly." Display changed to show images of planets that had been destroyed by the Vorthok. Burned worlds where entire species had been wiped out. Cities reduced to ash and rubble. Billions of innocent lives lost to the Empire's hunger for conquest. "Every atrocity has been recorded," Admiral Chang Ho Kim said. "Every act of genocide has been documented. We've been building a case against them for 2 decades. Dr. Hajin Choi, the lead scientist of the Dimensional Defense Corps, joined them at the display. She was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and graying hair. "The most important discovery we made," she said, "is that the Vorthok aren't the only aggressive empire in the galaxy. There are others. The Corvin hegemony, the Thessarian collective, the Mindo supremacy. All of them follow the same pattern of conquest and destruction. We've been watching them all," Admiral Chang Ho Kim added, "learning their strengths and weaknesses, preparing for the day when we would have to stop them." Hannah looked at the images of destroyed worlds and felt anger building in her chest. "How many people have died while you were preparing?" "Too many," her father admitted. "But if we had acted too soon, we might have failed." The ancient technology is powerful, but it requires perfect understanding to use properly. One mistake could have doomed not just humanity, but every peaceful species in the galaxy. The display changed again, showing something that made Hannah gasp. It was a planet she recognized, but it was wrong. Instead of the green forests and blue oceans she remembered, the world was covered in cities of gleaming crystal and metal. "Is that Earth?" she asked. "No," Dr. Hajin Choi replied. That's Corvani Prime. At least that's what it looks like now. 50 years ago, it was a world very much like Earth. The Corvan were a peaceful species of farmers and artists. What happened to them? The Vorthok happened, Admiral Chang Ho Kim said grimly. The Corvan were one of the first species the Vorthok conquered. But instead of killing them all, the Vorthok turned them into weapons. They changed their culture, their biology, their entire way of thinking. They made them into another aggressive empire. Hannah stared at the images in horror. They can do that? The Vorthok are experts at cultural destruction, Sahan explained. They don't just kill bodies, they kill souls. They turn victims into victimizers. It's how they've grown so powerful. But we've found a way to reverse the process, Dr. Haijin Choi said with hope in her voice. The ancient technology can heal minds as well as bodies, can restore species that have been corrupted by the Vorthok. Admiral Chang Ho Kim put his hand on his daughter's shoulder. That's why we've been so careful. We're not just trying to stop the Vorthok. We're trying to save every species they've corrupted. We're trying to heal the galaxy itself. The display showed more images. Planets being restored to their natural state. Species being freed from the mental chains the Vorthok had placed on them. Entire civilizations being given a second chance. At peace. The Dimensional Defense Corps isn't just a military organization. Admiral Chang Ho Kim continued, "We're healers. We're gardeners. We're trying to grow something beautiful from the ashes of what the Vorthok have destroyed." Hannah looked around at the crew working at their stations. They came from many different species, all working together with quiet determination. These weren't conquerors. They were protectors. "How many species have you saved?" she asked. 17. "So far," her father replied, "but we've had to work in secret. If the Vorthok had discovered us too early, they might have destroyed everything out of spite. And now?" Admiral Chang Ho Kim smiled for the first time since she had arrived. "Now we're strong enough to act openly. The Vorthok fleet out there is about to learn that their days of conquest are over, and every species they've wronged is about to get justice." Through the ship's windows, Hannah could see the trapped Vorthok fleet. The alien ship sat motionless in space, their weapons useless, their movement impossible. For the first time in her life, she felt hope for the future of the galaxy. "What happens next?" she asked. "Next," her father said, "we show the galaxy. What happens when bullies finally meet someone stronger than they are?" Admiral Chang Ho Kim led his daughter to the main command center of his ship. The room was filled with displays showing star systems throughout the galaxy. Each display told a story of suffering and loss caused by the Vorthok Empire over hundreds of years. "Hannah," her father said, "what I'm about to show you will change how you see the galaxy forever." He activated a massive display that filled the entire wall. The image showed a planet covered in beautiful cities, with crystal spires reaching toward the sky. Strange but peaceful creatures walked through gardens filled with flowers that glowed like tiny stars. "This is Korvac 7, Admiral Chang Ho Kim explained. "The Vorthok destroyed this world 15 years ago, or so everyone believes." The image changed to show the same planet as it appeared in official records. The surface was burned and lifeless. Nothing remained but ash and twisted metal where the cities had once stood. "But the official records are wrong," her father continued. "We saved them." Tactical Officer Jaeon Yu, a young man with intense eyes, stepped forward. "Captain Kim, we've been working for 20 years to evacuate species that the Vorthok targeted for destruction. We use the dimensional technology to move entire populations, two protected spaces between realities." The display showed images that made Hannah's heart race with hope. Cities floating in dimensional space, worlds that existed in parallel universes. Millions of beings that the galaxy believed were dead, living safely in hidden dimensions. "We let the Vorthok think they succeeded in destroying these species," Admiral Chang Ho Kim said. "It was the only way to keep them safe while we prepared." "For this day? How many?" Hannah asked in wonder. 14 different species, Jaeon replied. over 3 billion individuals. The Corvani, the Thessarians, the Mindo, the Valkyrie, and 10 others, all of them thought to be extinct. All of them very much alive. The display changed again to show something that made Admiral Vextar's crime seem even more terrible. It was a recording of Vorthok forces attacking a peaceful planet. But this recording showed details that had never been made public. "We've been documenting everything," Admiral Chang Ho Kim said. "Every attack, every act of cruelty, every moment of suffering they've caused. We have evidence of crimes that span 3 centuries. On the display, they watched Vorthok soldiers destroying hospitals and schools. They saw families being torn apart and children being taken from their parents. They witnessed the systematic destruction of entire cultures. This evidence has been broadcast to every inhabited system in the galaxy," Jaeon said. "Every species now knows the truth about what the Vorthok Empire really is." Hannah watched the recordings with growing anger. "How could they do such things?" "Because they believed no one could stop them," her father replied. "They thought power meant the right to destroy anything weaker than themselves. Today they learn how wrong they were." The ship's communication system activated, showing them what was happening throughout the galaxy. On 1,000 different worlds, people were watching the evidence of Vorthok crimes. Species that had lived in fear were seeing proof that the Empire could be defeated. "The response has been immediate," Jaeon reported. 17 different governments have declared the Vorthok Empire a criminal organization. Trade routes are being closed, diplomatic relations are being severed. But the most amazing thing was happening in the space around them. New dimensional rifts were opening faster than before. From each rift came ships that Hannah had never seen, vessels belonging to species she thought were extinct. "They're coming back," she whispered. "All of them," Admiral Chang Ho Kim confirmed. "The Corvani are sending their crystal ships. The Thessarians are bringing their living vessels that grow instead of being built. The Mindo Collective is deploying their swarm fleets." Through the ship's windows, Hannah could see an impossible sight. Hundreds of ships from dozens of different species were emerging from dimensional space. Each fleet represented a civilization that the Vorthok had supposedly destroyed. The Corvani ships looked like they were made of living crystal, beautiful and elegant as they moved through space. The Thessarian vessels were actually alive, breathing creatures the size of cities that swam through the void like gentle giants. The Mindo fleet consisted of thousands of small ships that moved together like a flock of birds. "Are they all working together?" Hannah asked. "Because they all suffered under Vorthok rule," her father explained. "We brought them together in the dimensional spaces. They've been planning this moment for years." On the main display, Admiral Vextar's face appeared. The alien commander looked around at the growing fleet with something approaching panic in his 4 eyes. "This is impossible," he said. "We destroyed these species. They cannot be here." "You destroyed worlds," Admiral Chang Ho Kim replied calmly. "But the people who lived on those worlds are very much alive. They have some things to say to you." The communication channel opened to include representatives from all the rescued species. One by one, they spoke to the Vorthok commander. Their words were simple, but powerful. "I am Commander Zelka of the Corvani," said a being that looked like it was made of living light. "You murdered my parents. You burned my home. You told the galaxy we were extinct. Today we return to seek justice." "I am Mothership Desha," rumbled a voice like distant thunder. "You poisoned our world's oceans. You slaughtered our children. You thought you had silenced us forever. You were wrong." One by one, 14 different species spoke. Each one told the story of what the Vorthok had done to them. Each one demanded justice for crimes that the galaxy had thought would never be punished. Admiral Vextar tried to maintain his composure, but Hannah could see fear creeping into his expression. "Even if these species somehow survived, we are still the Vorthok Empire. We have conquered 17 worlds. We have the most powerful fleet in the galaxy." Had Admiral Chang Ho Kim corrected, "You had the most powerful fleet. That was before you met us." The dimensional ships began to move into formation around the trapped Vorthok fleet. But these weren't attack formations. They were forming a circle, like a courtroom with the aliens at the center. "What is this?" Admiral Vextar demanded. This is a trial, Admiral Chang Ho Kim replied. For 300 years, the Vorthok Empire has committed crimes against innocent species. You've destroyed worlds, enslaved populations, and murdered billions. Today you answer for those crimes. A new ship emerged from the largest dimensional rift. This vessel was different from all the others. It seemed to be made of pure energy, shifting and flowing like liquid starlight. That ship represents the Galactic Justice Council, Jaeon explained to Hannah. It's made up of representatives from 50 different species. They've been waiting decades for this moment. The energy ship broadcast a message that reached every vessel in the system. By the authority granted to us by the civilized species of this galaxy, we hereby place the Vorthok Empire under arrest for crimes against all sentient life. Admiral Vextar's defiance finally cracked. You cannot do this. We are a sovereign empire. We answer to no one. Sovereignty does not grant the right to commit genocide, Admiral Chang Ho Kim replied. And today, your empire answers to everyone you've wronged. The space around them filled with more ships as word spread throughout the galaxy. Species that had never fought together were joining the fleet. Even former enemies were setting aside their differences to face the Vorthok threat together. Dad, Hannah said, watching the incredible sight. What happens to the Vorthok now? Depends on them, her father replied. They can surrender and face trial for their crimes. They can refuse and be removed from this dimension entirely. The choice is theirs. Admiral Vextar looked around at the massive fleet surrounding his trapped ships. Thousands of vessels from dozens of species, all united in their demand for justice. For the first time in his life, the Vorthok commander faced an enemy he could not defeat. What are your terms? He asked quietly. Unconditional surrender, Admiral Chang Ho Kim replied. And then we begin the long process of healing the damage you've done to this galaxy. Admiral Vextar stared at the massive fleet surrounding his trapped ships. The Vorthok commander, who had once boasted of conquering 17 species, now faced representatives from every civilization he had tried to destroy. His 4 eyes darted. Between the displays, showing thousands of vessels from dozens of different worlds. Unconditional surrender, he repeated slowly. And what happens to my people if we agree to these terms? Admiral Chang Ho Kim's voice remained calm and steady. Your military leaders will face trial for their crimes. Your soldiers will be offered a choice between rehabilitation or relocation to a dimension where they can start over without the ability to harm others. Your civilians will be given the chance to learn a different way of living. And if we refuse, then you will be removed from this dimension entirely. Commander Zelka of the Corvani said, her voice like crystal bells ringing. In the void, you will be placed in a reality where you can only harm each other, never again threatening innocent species. Admiral Vextar looked around at his bridge crew. The other Vorthok officers were watching him with fear and uncertainty. For 3 centuries, their empire had never faced defeat. They had never even imagined it was possible. Sir, one of his officers whispered, our weapons are still useless. Our ships cannot move. We have no choice. The alien commander closed his 4 eyes and was silent for a long moment. When he opened them again, something had changed in his expression. The arrogance and cruelty were gone, replaced by something that might have been acceptance. The Vorthok Empire surrenders, he said quietly. A cheer went up from the ships of the rescued species. Across the galaxy, beings who had lived in fear for centuries heard the news and wept with joy. The greatest threat to galactic peace had finally been stopped. But Admiral Chang Ho Kim knew that victory was only the beginning. The surrender is accepted, he announced. Now begins the work of healing. The dimensional ships began to move in perfect coordination. Using their advanced technology, the carefully transported Vorthok personnel from their vessels to specially prepared holding areas in dimensional space. The process was gentle but thorough, ensuring that no one who had committed crimes could escape justice. Captain Hannah Kim watched from her father's ship as the Vorthok fleet was systematically emptied. What happens now, Dad? Now we rebuild, Admiral Chang Ho Kim replied. We help the species that were hurt. We restore the worlds that were damaged. Make sure something like this never happens again. Dr. Haijin Choi approached them with a report in her hands. Admiral, we're receiving messages from across the galaxy. 17 different governments want to join the Dimensional Defense Corps. 23 more species have asked for our protection. The trials began immediately. The Galactic Justice Council, made up of representatives from 50 different species, reviewed the evidence that had been collected over decades. Each fourth officer was judged fairly but firmly, with punishment matching the severity of their crimes. Admiral Vextar himself faced the council 3 days later. As he stood before representatives of every species his empire had wronged, he no longer looked like the confident conqueror who had threatened the new soul. Admiral Vextar, of the former Vorthok Empire, announced the council leader, "You are charged with genocide, slavery, destruction of civilian targets, and crimes against all sentient life. How do you answer these charges?" The former Vorthok commander looked at the evidence presented against him, recordings of his orders, lists of the worlds he had destroyed, images of the suffering he had caused. The proof was overwhelming and undeniable. "Guilty," he said simply. "I am guilty of all charges." The sentence was exile to a dimensional prison where he would live out his days studying the cultures he had destroyed, learning what he had taken from the galaxy through his actions. But the trials were only part of the healing process. Throughout the galaxy, the work of restoration began. A dimensional defense. Corps used their advanced technology to repair damaged worlds and restore poisoned ecosystems. Tactical. Officer Jaeon Yu led the efforts to return the rescued species to normal space. The Corvani were given a new world where they could rebuild their crystal cities. The Thessarians found ocean planets where their living ships could grow and multiply. The Mindo Collective established new colonies where their people could live. In harmony, engineer Sehen Park worked with representatives from all the rescued species to share technology and knowledge. The dimensional science that had saved them was gradually shared with other peaceful civilizations, creating a network of protection that spanned the galaxy. "We're not just preventing future attacks," he explained to Captain Hannah Kim. "We're making sure that aggressive empires can never gain enough power to threaten innocent people again." 6 months after the surrender, Captain Hannah Kim found herself standing on the bridge of a new kind of ship. The vessel was a joint creation of human technology and the ancient dimensional science. It was her ship now, the flagship of the multi-dimensional Peace Corps. Her crew came from a dozen different species. The first officer was a Corvani named Tolvek, whose crystal body glowed with inner light. Her chief engineer was a Thessarian named Deep Current, whose living ship knowledge helped them understand biotechnology. Her communications officer was a Mindo named Swiftwing, who could coordinate with thousands of small vessels at once. "Captain," Tolvek reported, "we're receiving a distress signal from the Corvin sector. Another aggressive empire called the Hegemony is threatening peaceful colonies." Hannah smiled as she looked at her diverse crew. "Set course for the Corvin sector. Let's go remind these hegemony forces that the galaxy has protectors now." As her ship moved through dimensional space toward the new threat, Hannah thought about how much had changed. The galaxy was no longer a place where the strong could prey upon the weak without consequence. Aggressive empires now knew that their actions were being watched by guardians who possessed the power to enforce justice. Admiral Chang Ho Kim contacted her from his flagship. "How does it feel to be the captain of the galaxy's newest peacekeeping force?" "It feels like coming home," Hannah replied. "This is what humanity was meant to do, isn't it? Protect those who can't protect themselves." "Your grandmother would be proud," her father said. "She always believed that with great power comes great responsibility." Today, humanity and all our allies are living up to that belief. The multidimensional Peace Corps fleet emerged from dimensional space near the threatened colonies. The hegemony. Ships that had been preparing to attack suddenly found themselves surrounded by vessels from a dozen different species, all united in their determination to protect the innocent. "Attention hegemony forces," Captain Hannah Kim broadcast. "This is the multidimensional Peace Corps. You are threatening peaceful civilians. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." The response came quickly. "We are not familiar with your organization. We do not recognize your authority." "Then let us introduce ourselves," Hannah replied. "We are the people who stopped the Vorthok Empire. We are the voice of every species that refuses to live in fear. And we are here to make sure that bullies like you never again threaten innocent people." The hegemony commander's tone changed quickly when he realized who he was facing. "We were just conducting routine exercises. We have no hostile intentions." "Good," Hannah said. "Then you won't mind if we escort you back to your own territory." As the hegemony ships retreated under the watchful eyes of the Peace Corps fleet, Hannah felt a deep satisfaction. The galaxy was becoming a better place, one peaceful intervention at a time. That night, she sat in her captain's quarters. Hannah looked out at the stars and thought about the future. Children from dozens of different species would grow up in a galaxy where conquest and genocide were no longer possible. They would learn to solve their differences through cooperation rather than violence. The old man who had seemed to appear from nowhere had indeed saved not just his daughter, but the entire galaxy from an age of darkness. And now, together with all the species they had rescued and protected, humanity had found its true purpose among the stars. The promise of Oblivion had been replaced with the guarantee of protection. The galaxy was finally free.